country on the line.
The Honourable Dr. Nick Smith.
Speaker, sometimes it's the little things that happen around here in Parliament that tell us about what's really going down here. And so it was last night when government members grabbed a bite to eat in the members' dining room. It was like watching the great Messiah gather with the disciples for that Last Supper. It began with David Cunliffe confidently strolling in at 6:30, smiling like the Cheshire cat in search for his cabal of close colleagues. He realises he's in the wrong place, but is one to never admit the errors of mere mortals, makes polite conversation, and exits next door with conspiracy all over his face. Not a minute passes, and in comes Jacinda Ardern and Chris Hipkins in search of Mr. Cunliffe. We politely give them directions and advise them that we are signed up members of the Nats for Shearer Club. They guiltily sleek off through the door. Next scurries in Darian Fenton and Phil Tryford. They are much more sheepish in seeking out their Messiah, but we again helpfully direct them to the correct room. Claire Curran, Ross Robertson and Parakara Emir are the next group of lost disciples. Although going by their looks, I'd be a little bit worried that one of them is indeed the Judas. So what are we to make of these goings-on? The first is that Labor can't even organise a proper coup without the help of national MPs. One would not trust them to organise a booze up in a brewery, let alone a change of leadership. How can Labor pretend it's capable of running the country when they can't even run themselves? The second is that the end is nigh for Mr. Shearer. The question now is only a matter of when and not if. The third is that the battle for the soul of the Labor Party has been between the ABC Club, the old guard like David Parker and Trevor Mallard, and the new young disciples of David Cunliffe like Jacinda Ardern and Chris Hipkins. And the fourth is this. This weekend's Labor conference is going to be all about just one thing: leadership, or rather the lack of it. Why on earth, Mr. Speaker, would debating the constitutional changes over leadership be the key item on the agenda when your leader's languishing in the polls and hanging on by the end of his fingernails? But Labor's problems are actually much deeper than leadership. It's just not credible for Labor to say they're all for jobs and then to oppose every realistic initiative for job creation, whether it's the Hobbit, the International Convention Centre, aquaculture, mining or irrigation projects. It's not credible for Labor to shed crocodile tears about housing affordability and then promote monetary policy changes that will only drive up interest rates and the cost of housing. Nor is it credible for Labor to wail about export growth and then propose new taxes and new charges that will sock our export sector between the eyes. My advice to the disciples of both Mr. Cunliffe and Mr. Shearer is that before you pick your Messiah, you've got to get your gospel sorted out. The real challenge is for the opposition to put up a united, credible alternative plan. And the problem for Labor this weekend is that they are so focused on themselves and their internal squabbles that they have absolutely nothing to offer the people of New Zealand.
Dr. Kennedy Graham.